Hey, what's up, everybody? This is going to be my first video. I like playing poker here on ignition.com. This video that you're watching, this is during the weekly 2,500 Bitcoin depositors free roll. So, of course, we start with a Queen 3 offsuit. We go ahead and fold, and we're just going to go ahead fast forward through this pretty quick. I'm just going to talk about some of my starting hands and what I kind of look for and a little bit of my strategy. This tournament here, I played it a little more loosey goosey, but we'll get into it later. You'll see this first hand. This player right here, 433, is pretty aggressive. Goes for a pot size bet there. It looked like. For this next hand, we go ahead pick up Ace 8 offsuit. And during this hand, we see a couple limpers, so I go ahead raise it up to 3 big blinds. We get 2 callers, and what happens? We go throughways to a flop, and we hit the ace. So I also have a flush draw here, but I'm a little nervous if any of them have, like, let's say, Jack of clubs, King of clubs, any higher club than me. Maybe it's a little nitty for me, but I was a little nervous to go ahead and, let another card come out, so I bet big. Next hand, we get a King 6 offsuit. Of course, I already decided to fold this hand, but especially once the raise comes in, you don't really want to play anything worse than maybe King 9 offsuit from the button. And that's also probably a little looser than you should play. Probably maybe King 10. I think King 10 is probably good. Depending on how deep you are, King 9 is good. Usually I'll do King 9. But this guy seems to think about it. And what we notice here in the early rounds, there's really two guys that are pretty aggressive. Number 433, and we'll see who the next guy is. It may be even number 84, I believe. This next hand, we've got 10-4 suited. That's, an automatic fold. So we go ahead, toss that one away. All right, next hand we've got here is 9-10 offsuit. First guy folds. We get a couple people that limp into this pot. So when it comes to us, we go ahead, put in a 3x raise. We're going 3 big blinds, hoping to get a good flop here. And it comes out 3, Jack, 6. So not really what we want. We do have the Jack, but it could have been better for us. If we face a raise here, depending on the size, we may just fold. But he puts in a raise of 3 big blinds. And so I'm looking at maybe a 1, 2, and now we've got another caller. So it's going to be, 3 into 18. So you're really looking at a 1 to, what is that, 6? 1 to 6 pot odds. So we go ahead, call. The, turn isn't really what we want. We get a 4, so we're pretty much just going to check fold here. And right here is, we're going to see that aggression that I mentioned earlier from player number 433. He's going to go a pretty big bet here. It's not exactly pot size, maybe 75, 80% pot, maybe somewhere around there. We get a Jack on the river. Number 76 checks, and this is where we're going to see a really big bet by number 433. He's actually going to go all in. And then number 76 is faced with a tough decision here. And he kind of tanks on it a little bit, but after a few seconds, he decides to call. He's also going to go all in, and he's going to win the pot there. Of course, that hand, I did do a 3x raise. If you notice, 433 called and was in there with 6-4. He had a 2 pair. But this next hand we get, that's going to be a deuce 7. We're not going to make the same mistake as 433. We're just going to go ahead and automatically fold that one here. You may have noticed as well, the blinds just increased. So I went from about 75 big blinds down to about 37.5 big blinds. This fold here, it's always a good fold. However, once the flop came out, ace 3-4, I was a little nervous, but it wouldn't have gone our way at the end. So it's always some good reinforcement. Next hand as well, this is going to be an automatic fold, especially from middle position. 9-5. There's not really too many spots on the table that you should be playing 9-5 from, especially kind of this early in the tournament. So we're just going to go ahead, fold that out. Sometimes it would work though. I mean, 9-5 would be all up in this board right now, but it's definitely not something you want to do over the long run. We see that aggression from 433 once more. It actually works against him twice, and he's out of here. All right, so next hand, we're looking at 3-5. This is going to be another, automatic fold. Under the gun, 3-5. Really, under the gun, that's going to be the tightest position you're going to play from. Definitely really aren't ever going to see 3-5. Maybe in a blind versus blind situation or a raise. But really, there's not so many situations. But again, look, I'm all up in this board 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would have flopped the nuts. However, it's still not something you can really gamble on. It's always kind of frustrating seeing these hands, especially in a tournament where they build the pots so big like this one. They just built a huge pot. I would have came out with the nuts here. Really, during play, I'm just kind of hoping someone has a full house. Just praying, please have a full house, not just an ace or something. I've got this sick feeling in my stomach right now, thinking, oh, I walked out of the nuts, and then it turns out this guy actually rivers a full house. So it would have been a setup, and, I actually dodged a bullet there. So make sure you stick to your pre-flop ranges. It comes in and saves you in ways that you don't really even notice sometimes, and it's just good fundamentals. This hand here, again, this is another automatic fold, Jack 2 offsuit. Sometimes you want to protect the big blind, but in this case, we're still pretty early in the tournament. I'm not feeling too aggressive right now, and I would have to be playing all in from here. When we see aces versus eights, that's basically what's going on. We get 2 full houses. Thank goodness for the overbet. Number 84 could have lost a lot of money there. Next hand, we're going to get king 7 off. From the small blind, of course, this is typically a fold, I believe. Like I said, you usually don't want to do worse than king 9. Sometimes I think from the small blind you could be a little more loose. I'll go ahead and have to fact check it, but I think you could be a little more loose from the small blind depending on the situation. I go ahead, raise it up. The flop goes my way. I hit a 7, get a couple clubs here. Once the jack comes on the turn, I check it. He checks back. Not another club, so I'm thinking, okay, maybe I've got him beat. I go for a bet, 2.2 big blinds, and he calls it almost instantly. It has 2 pair. In that case, what are you going to do? He had position on me. That's, again, one of the times where you kind of got to know where you're at on the table. Definitely haven't been playing the best this tournament, but nonetheless, I thought it'd still be good to go through, kind of put out there, get other people's thoughts and opinions. This hand here, we've got 10-9 suited. I go ahead, raise again to 3 big blinds. Get a couple callers this time. Flop comes king, 8-3, 2 clubs. So again, I'm in pretty good shape. I got 8, 9, 10. I'm thinking I'm on a flush draw. Depending on what this next card is, if it's a jack or, that could be really nice. But really, I'm just praying for a club here. So I go ahead, put in a small bet here. I'm pretty shallow stacked, so I don't want to risk too much of my chips on this, especially because I just got burnt on a very similar situation. But that induces a fold from 2 players. Next guy calls again. I hit an 8 on the turn. It's not helping me out at all. And then we hit a 5. So 2 bricks back to back. Checks back to us. Maybe I'm a little tilted. But instead of betting, I check over to him. And it turns out he's got 3-4 for a pair of 3s. Again, that's crazy. That's a pre-flop raise. And he's calling with 3-4. We've seen 2 hands like that. I don't think it's the same guy. However, these tournaments are pretty easy. There's a lot of people that play pretty loosely. It's still pretty early in the tournament, so go check it out. It's ignition.com. You may actually win one of these things. This next hand, you saw me raise it to 3 big blinds again. We've got queen 7 suited. We've got hearts. No hearts come, but there's a flush draw. We've got a queen, not top pair, but we go ahead, bet, show a little bit of aggression, and we take it down. I was pretty confident he didn't have a hand there after checking it back. Next hand, though, we've got ace 7 suited. I go ahead, raise. I know I'm shallow stacked here. It's not quite 10 big blinds, so I'm not thinking I need a shove. I don't really think I'd get any callers either. So we go ahead and just do another raise. We get re-raised. And, ace 7 suited, that's definitely within calling range. Really, all the ace suiteds are. You got a potential nut hand there. So we get a pretty good flop, 3, 5, 10. It's not too high. He probably doesn't have a pair, especially if he's re-raising me. And we go ahead, raise. He re-raises me again, and we go all in. And the turn and the river don't help us at all. He wins it with a pair of 10s. We're just going to see it one more time for anyone that thought that was too quick. I raised, hoping to get a fold. He re-raises me. I call, go all in. He's in with top pair and a good kicker, and the spades just don't come my way, so he ends with a pair of tens, king high. So that's pretty upsetting. You know, I was pretty aggressive, pretty wild, did a little bit of gambling here, but it didn't pay off. I appreciate you watching, though.